Okay, hello everyone and welcome to Sprockets. This is a tank designer game which has come out on Steam. You may have seen it on YouTube over the last couple of months. I picked up the game to see what it was like, and I've had a lot of fun with it. Designing tanks is all very fun. It's a game that I'm sure a lot of people have wanted for a while, myself included, to just, design your own tanks. We've all done it at some point, and now here's a game which actually allows us to, and I'm just going to show you some of my designs that I've come up with. So the game does start you off with some pre-made things, such as a panther. I mean, there you go. As you can see, they've pre-made a panther. The same with a centurion. There you go. They've designed a centurion as well, and the game has also designed a bunch of other things, but let's just show you this one, the Crom Tilda, which is set in the early war. So there's World War I era, and then into early, mid, and late World War II. So if you want to make an early war or interwar tank, you can, or if you want to go all the way back to World War I, then you can as well. As you can see, I have designed some land ships myself in the World War I period to take on some of the scenarios that are already in the game. So yeah, this is my first attempt at a sort of World War I style tank. I tried to go with obviously none of these are realistic before anyone starts shouting at me saying that this would never happen. Yes, I know this wouldn't happen. That's sort of the game. The game is that you know that your tanks would never have been made. This is just a what if. So yeah, as you can see, a big old engine in the back. It's got a single or two-man turret, although it's really a five-man turret here. But as you can see, as for armor, I mean, yeah, it's 10 mils of armor. It's really bulletproof, pretty much. Not shell-proof or anything, but yeah, armor 15 mils, 10 mils. All around. There's really no sort of armor whatsoever here for the tank. But it does have a 57 mil. It does have a 6-pounder in it. Here, yeah, 6-pounder gun. Where is it? Caliber 40 mil. Oh no, this is only a 2-pounder. This is only a 2-pounder gun in here, which has got how much pen? Where does it say? There you go. 41 mils of pen. So yeah, it's not particularly fast. It doesn't have a lot of penetration. Has a 6-second reload, and it also has a heck of a lot of HE rounds stored in it. And yeah, it's with each scenario, the engine power and all of that gets better and better. But for World War I, you're sort of crawling around, so it does have a trench crossing thing at the back, and it does have sort of interweaved wheels. But yeah, it means 7 kilometers an hour. It's really not particularly fast, but it's a fun little tank. So there's the Landship Mark I. Landship Mark II, I tried to go with a sort of Mark IV style design for trench crossing. Didn't particularly work. You can't really do side sponsons either, as far as I can tell. But it does have a 6-pounder gun in it, with again 41 mils of pen. As for armor, though, I mean, it's 50 mils. 50 mils of frontal armor, 30 mils for the top area here, 40 mils down the bottom. There's a 50 mil sides. There you go. 30, 30, 30. It's sort of all 30 around, but effective thickness is more because it is sloped slightly. But yeah, even so, it's an attempt, isn't it? I mean, it's pretty fast firing as well. I mean, 2.6 second reload is pretty fast for firing. And I tried to sort of cover up the tracks, but I mean, it hasn't worked quite as well as I wanted it to. But yeah, there you go. That is the Landship Mark II. As we get stuck on a ridge because I tried to slow. But yeah, there it is. Also, mobility-wise, actually, the engine of this thing It's underpowered. It's not particularly great. Yeah, 370 Newton meters of torque. It's nothing particularly crazy. The Mark III Landship is just sort of outrageous. It's two giant wheels, pretty much. Yeah, it's two giant wheels with a turret on top. I thought if you can't make a normal tank, if you can't make like a Mark 1, we'll make one of these. So yeah, it's got massive wheels on it. It has got a turret. They're all hand crank turret because World War One. I think this is again a 2-pounder gun. But it's a fun enough looking tank. Fun little tank. The tracks don't like it, as you can see. They're sort of glitching out down the bottom and up the top. They're not expecting you to have these massive of road wheels on them. But still, you know, when we get to trenches, as you'll see, this still isn't particularly useful. Here's the trench. We line it up, and bonk. There you go. Yeah, it just sort of gets stuck. We now can't reverse out, nor can we go forwards. We are kind of stuck here. So yeah, there's that. Armor-wise, 20 mil all around, pretty much for the hull, and the turret is 20 mil all around as well. So big surprise there. And again, 2-pounder gun, 51 mils of pen this time though. And then my final attempt is the Landship Mark IV. If the rhombus shape doesn't work, just make a really long TOG-style tank. So, yeah, again, 2-pounder gun, 51.9 mils of pen, and armor-wise, it's 30 mils all around the front at least, and then the side as well, 30 mils. 20 mils side of the turret, and then rear is 30 mils, and then 20 mils. So, it's decently well armoured for a World War I sort of heavy tank. But again, 3-second reload on the gun. It still doesn't cross trenches. Honestly, I've no idea how to get across trenches here. None of my designs seem to want to work, even though these wheels are sticking way out the front. Just the design doesn't want to work. And also, those blocks sticking out the front is a part of the suspension. I can't get the blocks removed, nor can I put different suspension on without getting rid of most of these wheels, and the wheels are what gives it the effect. But it does have sort of like side skirty things with the old mud removal of the Matilda and the Whippet. So we have got some sort of World War I style design going on there. And yeah, once again, a lot of rounds stored. And as we come up against the trench, you think, this is long enough, it'll cross the trench. Nope. The tracks just go through the floor. And yeah, we're now stuck. We can't reverse, nor can we go forwards. We are stuck. There's nothing else we can do. The wheel doesn't like it, I don't like it, we're just sort of stuck. The physics, I think, need a bit of work, as does the trench crossing, but I'm sure there's a way. So there's that. And then we get to the early war. I built this one, the Cheetah Cruiser Tank Mark I, based on sort of the British design at the early war. So we've got 5 road wheels with no idlers. We've got the good old British sort of up, across, down side skirt pattern. We also have a machine gun turret on the front like the old Crusader tanks, well, the early war Crusader tanks. Well, early model, I should say, Crusader tanks. Armour-wise, it's not particularly anything impressive. 30 mils all around, 20 mils on the front of the turret, 25 mils on the front, actually, 20 mils on the side. We've got some sloping, but effective thickness is only 30 mils, so yeah, it's not well armoured. It is just a light cruiser tank after all. But mobility-wise, though, it's very fast. It's got an 8.2 litre V8, 570 Newton meters of torque, and firepower. It does again have a 2-pounder gun, obviously, with 76 mils of pen, which is not bad for a 2-pounder. But yeah, here we go. As you can see, sprightly tank. Off we go, nice and fast for just driving across the deserts or or the fields of France. It can go over bumps pretty nicely. Oh, until we reach this bump, in which case we can't go over it. Come on, tank. Nope. Nope, that's it. Cheetah is stuck. But yeah, it's quite fast. It's a decent little run around. We do have a decent amount of 2-pounder rounds, and we can go up some slopes, as you can see. Not quite. If this slope was shorter, or at a slightly different angle, we would have got up there. Maybe with a run up, we would make it. But yeah, that is the Cheetah. It's a fun little light tank, fun little cruiser. It can go pretty fast. We're already going 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 kilometers an hour over the bumps. We slow down a little bit here, but yeah, you get it on the flat, and it just goes. Yeah, it just runs. There you go, 20 kilometers an hour. 22 on the rough. I mean, on pavement it'll go like 25 kilometers an hour, which is just pretty fast for a light tank. At least in this game, and then we get stuck. But yeah, that's the Cheetah. It's a pretty good design. However, the Longbow tank destroyer is probably the best design I've had. It's an interwar tank destroyer, but it does have a 57mm. It has got a 6-pounder. It's got 87.7 mils of pen, which is pretty good. Pretty good for an interwar interwar tank destroyer. 8-litre V8, very fast, 530 Newton meters of torque. We do only weigh 16 tons. Plus, the frontal armour of this thing, it's got massive effectiveness. 40 mils it's a 40 mil base sloped armour, which gets up to nearly 100 mils at certain places. It ranges from what, 70 to 100 mils of armour. I mean, the sides are pretty terrible, 30 mils and then 20 mils. But for a sloped tank destroyer, this thing is very good. The interwar scenario has you escape to a point at the far end of the map, and you're attacked by various tanks on the other team. And these things work fine. These things were really good. About a 5-second reload time, which, well, 4.5-second reload time, which is not bad. We do have some gun elevation, some gun depression. We do at least have some gun traverse as well, but it's also relatively fast, 19 kilometers an hour on the rough. It's pretty mobile. It's just all round a pretty decent tank destroyer. It is based off of my regular British style light cruiser tank chassis, as you can see. No idlers. The wheels just sort of have the track running on both sides of them. But yeah, it's just a decent tank destroyer, quite honestly. If I drive over to the terrain here, well, to the runway, I suppose, sort of roadway, and we let it go. 16, 17, 18, 19 kilometers an hour to top speed, which, I mean, it's still relatively slow, but for a tank with this sort of armor and an interwar gun that can penetrate 87 mils of armor, it's pretty decent. It's one of my better tank designs, I have to say. And then we have the first ever tank that I designed, the Azimuth cruiser tank. Armor-wise, 50 mil front at a slope, 50 mil frontal turret as well, 30 mil sides, 30 mil sides again, and then I think it's 20 mil rear. So yeah, and then 20 mil, 10 mil roof armor. So again, for a cruiser tank, it's about cruiser tank armor. It does have a 40 mil, so it does have a pretty long 6-pounder gun with 170 mils of pen. Mobility wise, very fast with a 10.8 litre V8 for 790 Newton meters of torque. Yeah, look at it go. Zoom along. Just over a 4-second reload time. It's got very good mobility there, driving around 32, 33, 35 kilometers an hour. 30, 40 kilometers an hour, going jump the trench. Jump the trench as we get up to 40 kilometers an hour again. It's just super speedy. Look at it go. The gun has got very good penetration. it's a pretty good gun. Pretty fast firing. We carry a decent amount of ammo. But on the flat, let's see, 41, 42 kilometers, 43, 44, 45. We're just super fast. We just run 46, 47 kilometers an hour. Yeah, it's just a very fast sort of cruiser tank. Yeah, which is good. Pretty fast turret traverse. The scenarios don't really do it justice, because they're all sort of you get shot at before you can see the enemy, which is how war goes, I suppose. But even so, yeah, even with that, it's still a decent enough light tank or medium tank design for a cruiser tank. I did build a second variant, so this is a mid-war. It's got a Mark II variant, which again mid-war. Armor hasn't really changed, but I think the gun changed. Let me see, gun. Yeah, 139 mils of pen now with this, because it's got an even longer barrel, basically. It's just an even longer barrel 6-pounder gun, and mobility-wise, it's still the same. So, I mean, very little has actually changed. It's just a better gun. It has a slightly longer reload time, I think, but yeah, it's got a 6-second reload time. But otherwise we can go at the same sort of pace, because go zoom. Let's just jump over the trench. There you go, nice and easy. Yeah, so there you go, just nice and easy cruiser tank. But now we come to the tanks that I'm most happy with. The Castle Infantry tank. This is a Churchill style tank, as you'd expect. It's just got a boatload of armor. It's just a boatload of armor. It's the Mark I, so this is the mid-war variant. Although I should show you the prototype that I made. So this is the prototype. This is the early war Castle infantry tank. It's got a different gun mantlet. It's got a 6-pounder gun by the looks of it. It's just a very thick 6-pounder gun, yeah. 6-pounder gun with 110 mils of pen. There you go. Very nice. Mobility-wise, it's slow with a 7.5 litre V6. So Churchill-style engine with only a V6. Pretty underpowered, but that's to keep up with the infantry. But armour-wise, though, 90 mils of frontal armour. It's all flat like a Churchill, but yeah, still 140 thickness, including the gun mantlet. But yeah, otherwise it's still 70 mils turret ring, 90 mils frontal turret. It's just a very, very strong infantry tank that can side scrape. It's slow, it's well armoured, and yeah, early war castle. I mean, as you can see, it sags very low down. The suspension is working hard to keep this thing going. The gunner's sight isn't in a particularly good place. I don't really have much space for putting the gunner's sight on this thing. But yeah, 4.5 second reload time on this 6-pounder. We sort of get stuck in a few places, as you can see. If the terrain isn't to our favour, the castle does get stuck. However, fitting to its namesake, it is slow, it's hard to move, and it's hard to get rid of. It's just a very strong, heavy tank for keeping up with the infantry. The engine, it's not well done. As you can see, the engine's already on yellow, it's already damaged. So yeah, mobility-wise, it doesn't exceed like 10 kilometers an hour. There we're going at 8 kilometers an hour there, and that's pretty much the best we can do on flat land. On flat rough, rather, 8 kilometers an hour. So yeah, it's not the best. Not the best, but it does for fighting enemy tanks of the early war tier. Mid-war though, infantry tank. Armor-wise, it's gone up even more. 150 frontal hull, 150 frontal turret, including the 130 mils of mantlet thickness means you've got a lot of frontal mantlet, and then the sides, yeah, 110 sides. 110 sides again. It's 71 mils of effective thickness down the bottom here, but it's 75 mils actual side armor. And yeah, overall it's just even stronger. The mobility has been increased to a 12 litre V6. It's still slow. It does still have 870 newton meters of torque. But the gun, however, has been increased to a 76 millimeter gun with 158 mils of pen. So that's about as good as the Churchill 1 in Blitz. The turret, though, is still pretty slow. However, the gunner's sight has been improved. You now can see properly because it has got a different gun mount then. But yeah, 7-second reload time, or 7.6-second reload time, but it is a lot faster. As you can see, we're going 18 kilometers an hour along here. Actually, pretty fast for a heavy tank. Pretty fast, but yeah. Castle Mark I, we can actually cross trenches there, as you can see, because we've got enough speed up. But yeah, the mobility is the only thing that really kills the infantry tank here. 25 kilometers an hour, which is about Churchill speeds. And firing off the gun, very nice. We carry a decent amount of AP and HE rounds for our 7-second reloading tank. We've got various logs and stuff to help us if we get stuck. The suspension is still pretty low riding, as you can see. The side skirts really cover the side. But yeah, the castle is my best line of tanks. See, firing along. I have beaten some scenarios with the castle. It's just a pretty decent design. Most heavy tank designs, if you do them well, are pretty strong. 40 tons though is why the tank is struggling. We've then got the Mark II castle, which 87mm gun now, so it's a 25-pounder. Because I think 25-pounder artillery is 87mm, at least as far as I can think. 169mm of pen, pretty nice. Armour still hasn't really gone up, but it has been sloped. So there you go. You're getting slightly more thicker armour. Again, the turret has been changed slightly as well. It's now been sloped, and to give it a little bit of extra armour. Mobility-wise, 13.2 litre V6, so it's even bigger with 960 newton meters of torque to account for the extra weight of the gun. Pretty much, the Mark II just had the gun replaced. Is basically what you're getting here. So yeah, same old design. Still the same old castle. The suspension is still pretty low riding, but we've now just got better penetration for killing tanks. It is an 8.9-second reload time though on this thing, which is not great. It still struggles obviously with getting anywhere because it is still a fat heavy tank. As you can see, yeah, we can't really get up that slope unfortunately. But yeah, still. The main thing about the Mark II castle is that I did build an Armoured Vehicles Royal Engineers version. So here we go. This is the Mark II castle with a massive gun. As you can see. Yeah, it's just got a giant spigot mortar on it. So it's the biggest gun you can fit, 250 mils. It's very short and stubby, but it still has 67 mils of pen somehow. Don't know how that works. Armour is still the same. Yeah, armour is still sloped. It's still 150 mils thick. It's just been given a whole extra load of spare tracks to make it Royal Engineering. It's also got various tools and equipment and loads of metal beams and all sorts of stuff, bits of wood and everything, just to make it seem like an engineer's vehicle. It also has the 50 cal mounted on the roof, which the regular infantry tank does not have. So, yeah. Armoured Vehicles Royal Engineer. It has a pretty fast reload time actually for this spigot mortar. If we fire it, 6-second reload time. It carries mostly high explosive, as you'd expect. It does have some AP. It has a total of 30 rounds of AP. But yeah, HE is the main draw of this thing. I mean, just the amount of smoke that this thing generates when it fires. Yeah, just look at it. That's a massive smoke trail. Good for destroying bunkers, as it should be. But yeah, it's just an AVRE, just a giant mortar. So yeah, this was a fun little thing to change around. Doesn't really change the core tank that much. It's still got the same mobility, 13.2 litre V6. Yeah, it's the same old tank, it just has a giant mortar on it. The Mark III version, it's a late war tank, so it does have even thicker armour. 170 mils of frontal armour, which increased with the sloping, gives it 400 lower glacis or upper glacis, 200 front, well 220 mils front. Even bigger sloping. I increased the slope even more drastically. Again, 175 mils of frontal turret, which again gives it over 200 mils of effective thickness. At an angle, I should say. It's still not got a particularly great turret angle, but it's still over 175 mils thick, over 180 mils thick frontal turret all along, and the gun mantlet, of course, does have some armour. Also has 120 mils of lower glacis armour, 95 mils of side armour. It's just got armour everywhere. The gun has been improved even more to a 105mm gun with 207 mils of pen. It's now fast with a 15-litre V6. I don't know how it jumped up, but it somehow jumped up to being fast with a 15-litre V6. But otherwise, yeah, same old thing. The turret increases in size slowly to accommodate the extra size of the gun. The reload time, though, 12 seconds. It's a pretty slow reloading 105mm gun. Yeah, 12.3 second reload time-ish, which is not particularly great. However, it's pretty damaging. You can one-shot tanks pretty easily with this heavy tank now. For an infantry support tank, this is going a bit over. Oh, I think I've just screwed myself there, firing the gun. Yeah, we're now stuck in the trench. Whoops. But yeah, the Mark III castle, it's pretty good. Pretty good for taking on late war enemies. It can penetrate the front of a Panther. King Tigers still give it a bit of problem, but even so, for taking on Panthers and other late war tanks that the game throws at you, the Castle Mark III does pretty well. And then, of course, there's a Mark IV, which is the final evolution. Again, late war tank. 180 mils of frontal armour now, which gives it even more thickness. We've also got add-on armour. As you can see, we've now got extra bolted-on add-on armour all over the front of this thing, along with the spare track links, which give it, again, a bit more spaced armour. It's now got an even better 105mm, ever so slightly at least, 210 mils of penetration, 18-litre V6. It's now 1,330 newton meters of torque, which yeah, it's a lot of engine now. The tank is even thicker now. It's a pretty chonky thing now, which is it's pretty nice. The suspension isn't struggling quite as much, but it's still struggling a bit. But yeah, this is the final evolution of the castle for now. I mean, you could make another AVRE. 12-second reload still, 105mm. You could even try and fit a 120 into this thing. But at this point, the castle has been pretty much perfected now, as much as I can. Yeah, there's not really much more I can do with the castle line of tanks. The prototype is sort of the interwar tank. Oh, the terrain has killed me. Brilliant. We can bounce King Tiger shells, but we can't bounce a tree apparently in this thing. But yeah, there you go. That's all of the tanks that I've made. The castle is definitely my better line. My best line, however, the Azimuth, or rather the Longbow, if I was to keep on developing that would probably serve as one of my best lines as well. But yeah, if you want to see me actually design a tank from scratch, if you like this video, let me know, and I'll you know, tell me a tank type that you want to see, and I'll try and make it. But otherwise, yeah, that is Sprocket. And those are my tank designs. I'll thank you for watching, and goodbye.